we're not having class today, and I'll be gone on Tuesday. So I want you to get on IXL.com and let's look at the E's and F's. You don't have to do these all in one day. Spread them out over the 4 days or so that you have. Okay, the first E, E1, is about the coordinate plane. Remember, that's the x-axis, and this is the y-axis. And so if you have -5, -5, first you are going this way to -5 on the x, and then down to -5 on the y. So this would be your point right here. That should be fairly easy for you, so do about 6 of those and make sure that there's nothing tricky in there. Okay, the next is E2. E2 is about slopes. And remember the rhyme? We went through this last year. Slope is easy and fun. If you remember, rise over run. The rise is the y's and the runs is the x's. So we're going to put y's over x's. So if we have 2 points, let's say 1 and 10, and 2 and 5. Then we are going to say, this is point, let's just call this point 1 and that point 2. So this means this is x1 and y1, and this is x2, y2. Now, it doesn't matter whether you set that you put the second one first and the first one second, so you'll turn out with the same thing. Okay, now here's a formula: y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And that is 5 minus 10 over 2 minus 1. 5 minus 10 is -5. 2 minus 1 is 1, giving us a -5 slope, which means at this point would drop down 5. For every 1, it goes to the right. Okay, let's look at a slope on a graph. If I have a line that goes through my plane, let's say at 0, 0, and maybe at not there. Let's take that off. At 5, 4. So here's my line. You can find the slope by looking at the place where the line crosses. It'll have like blocks in here. Find somewhere where it crosses really nice on the blocks, and put down that coordinate and this coordinate, and then you can use your formula, or if you need to, you can count from one to the other and get the rise over the run. Now, if the line goes down like this from left to right, that has a negative slope. If the line is flat like this, it has a 0 slope. And if the line is up and down, vertical, it has a slope of undefined. Okay, and that should get you through those. Next, okay, this is E3, graph a line, graph a linear equation. And this is starting to get into the stuff that you may not remember so well. So let's go through this before you start it. There are several types of line forms that we can use. One is slope-intercept, where M is the slope, the rise over the run, and this B is a y-intercept. So if they give you a line in this form, like mine gives me this, it's pretty easy to graph because you can find the y-intercept, the -2, go down on the y-line and put that -2 as a point on the y-line. And then we're going to count the slope, which is this -1/10. So I'm going to go down 1 for the -1. And then I'm going to go across 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and put a point there. And then connect these two dots. A little better than that, but that's what I can do with my marker. Okay, so that point, that is pretty easy to graph in slope-intercept. Now they gave me another to graph x equals 0. So where is x always 0? Where the x coordinate always 0? It's on the y-line, right? So this would be the graph of x equals 0. Now if you get something that says y equals 3, then we're going to look for where y is always 3, which is a horizontal line like this. So if you have an x equals, you're looking for a vertical up and down line. And if you have a y equals, you are looking for a flat horizontal line. Okay, on this, we're still on graphing a linear equation. You need to keep doing them because it didn't give me a different type of problem until I've done like 10. So here's the next one it gave me. 7x plus 2y equals 14. And it says graph using intercepts. Well, for graph using intercepts, we know that it's setting the x to be something and then figuring out what the y will be, and then setting the y to be 0 and figuring out what the x will be. So if I rewrite this, but I'm going to put in 0 for my x, then I can figure out that y is 7. So I have my ordered pair 0 for x, and y will turn out to be 7 to make 14 here, because 2 times 7 is 14. Now, if I do the same thing, except I'm going to put in a 0 for the y this time, and figure out what the x will be. 7 times what is 14? 2. So here's my second point, 2, 0. So you are going to have 2 points, a 0 in the x spot and a 0 in the y spot. And then you just graph those 2 points. So 0, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 2, 0. Your graph will look like something like that. Okay? Now there's one more form for these. Let's show you that. It is the point slope formula. I don't know if we did this last year or not, but here it is. Okay. This y, the first y is just a y, so it'll stay a y. But this will end up being a point, like a number, and this will end up being a number. That's your slope. So if I have something like y minus 1 equals 3 times x minus 2, then I can graph from here. And what is my y1 point? It is the 1. Now, it's not negative 1 because I need that negative sign to stay in the formula, and I'm just going to pull the 1 out. And then what's my x number? My x number is 2. Again, I'm going to keep the negative in the formula. So my point will be 2, 1. So 2, 1. And then I just count the slope like normal. 3 up, 1 over. Okay? Now, if this sign is positive, I have to have a negative there. So if it's positive, I'm going to replace that positive sign with a negative, because a negative times a negative is a positive. That's where I can have my negative 1. Now, if you don't understand this, don't worry about it. We can go over it in class when I get back. Okay, onwards to E4, equations of lines. A line that includes a point 5, 10 has a slope of 1. What's the equation in slope-intercept form? So, before we go to slope-intercept form, let's put it in point-slope form, what we just did. So let's write down y minus y1 equals m minus, or times x minus x1. So then I can just write in the points. Y minus, here's my y, 10, equals, here's my slope, 1 times x minus 5. Okay, it's not simplified. I need to get the y by itself. So the first thing I'm going to do is multiply the 1 through for distributive. 1 times x is just x. 1 times negative 5 is minus 5. I'm going to add the 10 to get me y equals x plus 5. And that's what they want you to type in. Okay, next example of this. Okay, my next question is, a line slope is 1/2, and its y-intercept is negative 2. What is the equation in slope-intercept form? Okay, let's talk about this as a point. So if a line goes through the y-line at negative 2, or the y-axis at negative 2, what's the x point? Right, it's 0 because we're not going any this way or any that way. So I really just have a point here, right, with negative 2 as my y. Now I can go ahead and do the y minus, oh, and I have a negative 2, right, equals 1/2 x minus 0. So I can clean that sign up. Negative is a positive. And multiply that 1/2 by that x. 1/2 of 0 is still 0. So I'm going to subtract 2. So y equals 1/2 x minus 2. And that's the answer. Okay, my next problem is the points 8, 8 and 9, 4 fall on a line. What's the equation point slope? Well, this is just like we were doing before, but this time I need to find the slope first. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, 4 minus 8 over 9 minus 8 is negative 4 over 1, and that's just negative 4. Now, I can pick either one of these numbers as being my X and Y point that I want to use. So let's just go for this one. Y minus Y1, which is my 8, equals my slope, times X minus X1. Now solve it just like before. Multiply this out. Watch the sign, because negative 4 times negative 8 is positive 32. Then after you do that, add 8 to both sides. And that'll be your answer. Okay, and I just got this wrong because I didn't read the directions very well. They don't want you to simplify this. They want you to leave it in point slope, not slope intercept. So just type this in. Okay, in my next question, they give me a graph and they give me a line through it. So one of the points is 0, 0. And it looks like another point is 20, 10. And it says slope intercept form. So all I have to do here is get my slope by using the slope formula, and then picking one of these points like 0, 0 and saying y minus 0 equals, my slope would be 1/2 x minus 0. And then they want it in slope intercept. So I'm going to write y equals 1/2 of x. And that's my answer. Okay. See if you can do some more of those. Again, if you get into something that you don't know how to do, just write it down and save it, and I'll help you later. If it's a graph or something and you can't or take too much time to write down, just take a picture of it with your phone. Okay, now we are at E5, slopes of parallel and perpendicular lines. Remember that slopes of parallel lines, here's a symbol for parallel lines, are equal, and slopes for perpendicular lines are flipped over opposite signs. So if a line has a slope of 3/7 and we want the line parallel to it slope, the other slope is 3/7 still. Okay, if we wanted the slope of the line perpendicular to this line, we would flip the 3/7 over to 7/3 and change the sign to negative. Okay, so again, go ahead and try some of these and write down what's hard, and I'll help you through it. The next section, E6, is equations of parallel and perpendicular lines. My first question says line Q has an equation of y equals negative 1/2 x plus 4. And line R includes a point -1, -4. And it's also, we know it's perpendicular to Q, was the equation of line R. So I find the slope of the first line right here. I'm going to get the equation of the perpendicular slope by flipping it over and changing the sign. So my new slope will be positive 2. And then I use this point to do my point slope form. Okay. Now it said write it in slope intercept form. So you will want to come together and clean up these signs. Use the distributive and then subtract this 4 and bring it over here. and that'll give you the equation of the perpendicular line. Now, if this was parallel, it's even easier because I don't have to flip first. And I would just put my -1/2 right here and do the same thing. Okay, so both of them are fairly easy. Okay, onwards to the F's. F1 is classifying triangles. So remember, there is a right triangle, there is an obtuse triangle with a big fat O angle here, and there's a cute triangle. Oh, it's so cute, it's got little bitty angles. Okay, you can also classify them by their sides. So if no sides are the same, then it is a scalene. If two sides are the same, it's an isosceles. And if all three sides are the same, it's called equilateral. Okay, F2. Okay, F2 is the triangle angle sum theorem, which in a triangle, we know that if we're going to add up all the angles, angle 1, angle 2, and angle 3, they add to 180. So you are just going to give or have whatever numbers they give you. And then put an X in for that one and figure out what X is. So you will subtract 50, then you'll also subtract 60. And that'll give you the third angle. Every once in a while on these types of questions, they will give you X, 2X, and maybe another 2X. And what you'll have to do to figure it out is say 2X plus 2X plus X equals 180. And then 5X, after you add them all together, equals 180 by 5. And then whatever that is, that's equal to X. And these angles would be twice that number. Okay, so that's pretty easy too. F3 is the exterior angle theorem. Here's an exterior angle. This angle is the same measure as this angle and this angle combined. So if this angle is, say, 30 and this one is 40, then this exterior angle is 70. And if you don't know this one, you can take these two and subtract them to get the inside angle. Okay, so do your best on this stuff, and again, tell me if anything's hard and we'll go over it in class. And I will see you next Thursday.